Hi, I'm Peter Donalds, host and producer of the NeoRadio Hour. I'd like to take a moment before we start the show to say a few words of introduction to any new listeners, and for those of you who maybe have heard the show before, but are a little unclear on just what we're doing here. The NeoRadio Hour is an eclectic mix of spoken word, audio collage, and independent music. My partner and co-producer Frank Skillman and I each had a growing body of work, stories, poems, songs, odd little audio pieces that we hoped to find a home for. I personally produced audio art in my small home studio for years, thinking it was so personal and unique it would probably never be heard. I had never come across anything similar on the radio, and opportunities for sound alone as art or performance are rare. Well, it turns out we're not alone after all. With a little luck and a little research, we found there are many of you doing this kind of art. Over the last couple of years, we've been discovering and gathering material, first from our friends in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then from a wide and curious collection of artists from around the country, who network through a few underground publications. We now rely especially on people who have heard the show and spread the word or send us tapes. Now, much of what you hear on the program will be pieces by Frank and myself, but the real point of the NeoRadio Hour is to showcase the work of independent artists using words, music, and sound. People like you, with ideas that are rarely present in the media, especially on radio, and that are seldom, if ever, expressed through artistic form. We call you the folk artists of the electronic age. Radio art has always been a very distant relative to more commonly aired programming. Where it does exist, it's gained a reputation for being somewhat pretentious, affected, overly earnest. Radio art as folk art is pretty much non-existent on the airwaves today. Outsider art has been in vogue recently in other mediums. We think it's time to explore this territory on radio. As San Francisco art critic Kenneth Baker wrote, "The unschooled artist, outside the orbit of art talk and commerce, still holds the promise of resuscitating our hope that art may be a meteor of authenticity, descended here to the planet of the fakes." I mean, after all, talk radio can be heard 24 hours a day all across the country. There's plenty of opportunity to spout opinions. I'd like to thank this station for giving us an hour to air the work of everyday people who also happen to be thoughtful and creative artists. Maybe someday the radio dial will be filled not just with listeners' opinions, but with listeners' commentary, poetry, comedy and drama, stories, and music. It's the NeoRadio Hour. Hi, I'm Peter Donalds, and this is the NeoRadio Hour, home of independent writers, musicians, and home tapers, the folk artists of the electronic age. We've got the usual eclectic mix of scenes, stories, and sound sculpture, including a few neo bits from our own studios, a visit from our regular commentator, social critic at large, the caustic yet affable Mr. Sunshine. And at the first opportunity, I'll be giving you our mailing address, so get a pencil or pen handy. We want you to become part of next week's show. In the conversation collage tonight, writer, artist, performer, Donnie Tamblyn. It's the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art.
For 30 goddamn years. One little accident, Jesus fucking Christ, at the crosswalk. You think they'd have a little appreciation, maybe? A little respect. Do I look like Ralph Cramden? about that old broad, huh? Didn't I skip the last couple of stops so she could get to the hospital? She was having a stroke, for God's sakes. And I would have gotten to the hospital even sooner. But 33rd Street is a transfer point. And you know, your route is your route. Didn't I make Employee of the Month twice in as many years? One little accident, it's like, okay, Obrowski, turn in your bus driver's cap, the one you've been wearing for 30 goddamn years. And what about that Homer I hit at the bus driver's picnic? Back then it was like, Obrowski, you are one great goddamn bus driver. Nobody could pull the number 25 like Obrowski. Obrowski had one little accident, and now he might as well become a milkman or a shoe salesman. Or a priest. Remember that time I let them two drunk Puerto Ricans on? And they got their guitars and their canastas. And they're doing like these Spanish songs. And they're singing in Spanish. So of course it sounds like mice getting run over by a train. But my passengers, they like it. And I'm good to my passengers. So I let them guys play for 5, maybe 6 stops before telling them to shut up, you know. What do I get for it? Here's your pink slip. Take your lunchbox and go home. Goddamn union. I never miss dues. I never miss dues. Where's that union now, huh? One little accident, one little slip, and it's boom, over the curb, into that photomat booth. Thanks for your 30 years of dedicated service. I mean, bus driving's my life. I go to sleep and I dream about bus driving. Just yesterday, I had this dream that I was a bus driver in the year 2000. And a bus, she don't even run on the ground no more. It don't even got no wheels. It's like this hovercraft, see? It's real quiet, like you're just floating over the city. It ain't got no exhaust neither. It runs on like electrons or something. But shit, one little accident and no hovercraft for Obrowski. I didn't even see that goddamn photomat booth. Now the supermarket, I seen that. I seen the supermarket. But by the time I get to the brakes, it's like, hello, produce department. And all the passengers are pulling broccolis out of their laps. And who did I hit anyways? Not a goddamn person, that's who. Unless you're counting that bad boy, and he'll live probably 30 goddamn years. Here's your pink slip. Take your lunchbox and go home.
It's the NeoRadio Hour.
Let's talk to Melba. Hi, Melba, are you there?
Yes, sir.
You're on the air. Very quickly, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Well, I enjoy Vox Populi. It's a wonderful, wonderful program.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're talking about communism. I wanted to ask about, don't you think that very often we don't make the proper distinction between Marx and Lenin? I don't think they taught exactly the same thing or used exactly the same methods. Now, whereas Marx used more of a humorous approach, I believe Lenin brought in the spiritual and the philosophy. You know, he said, imagine all the people living life in peace. What do you think about that?
John, I'll let you answer that.
I missed a few of the words. The lady said that she believed Marx.
Marx used more of a humorous approach. He
A
said,
humorous approach?
Yes, he said, I would never join a club that would have me as a member. Whereas
Well, there was a
Lenin
little bit of
said-
humor, but well, I'll tell you, you read Marx on the Jews. You read Marx. He was just downright vicious
Wait,
at times.
did Marx write books?
Yeah.
I was talking about Groucho Marx.
No. We're talking.
Forgive me, I'm sorry.
Okay. We'll cut that out as it goes off the air there. John, I'm sorry about that. I thought she understood who we were talking about.
Right.
I'm sure that she was right. Groucho Marx, or whatever his name was, I'm sure he was very humorous. Let's talk to Bill. Hey, Bill.
These people that call and have nothing better to do than to shout obscenities or mock and make fun and pretend that they're speaking in some sort of another tongue and so on and so forth. Bear in mind, these are the same people that go into local businesses, restaurants and things, and carry Crayolas in their pocket and mark on bathroom walls. These are people that lack something upstairs, and as one man put it, they're one taco short of a combination plate.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to catch a pail of water. Jack running, Smokey son and Jill said, "Woo-wee! Isn't that funky now, Humpty Dump? Humpty Dump."
Okay, listen up, 'cause Mr. Sunshine has got some news for you. To coin a phrase, you been had. You been bamboozled. Mega malls, multiplex movie theaters, never-ending rows of department, specialty, and fast food chains. The old boys who own this country have got the game tilted so far in their favor that we're sliding on our asses like little kids on the water ride at your local theme park. Feudal lords and slave owners are watching proudly from their graves as their great-great-great-grandsons have figured out the current best way to control the masses and keep the money in the family. These corporate slime balls have adapted to the times, but the old game stays the same. There's thems that buy and there's thems that sell, thems that work and thems that collect the profit. Like the country song says, the rich man dances while the poor man pays the band. What the hell am I talking about? I'll tell you. You've been hornswoggled into believing that every precious leisure moment is wasted unless you're spending money on it. I recently visited the famed Mall of America in Minnesota. Oh, man. Thousands of people jammed into a teeming monolith of hype and noise, standing in line for 20 minutes to buy a $3.50 hot dog at the food court, where the seating is unbearably and intentionally uncomfortable to keep the hordes going and coming at a rapid rate. Store after store unloading overpriced baubles, trinkets, and shiny crap that nobody in their right mind could ever want or need. I couldn't understand why the people in the Mall of America weren't running back to their cars in the parking lot of America, screaming for mercy. Instead, they seem to actually be enjoying themselves. Why else would they be here? Are they all doing research for a radio commentary? Wait. No. I look closer. Remember the underworld in Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange? The faces behind the painted faces? I'm looking at them. No one's smiling. No one is laughing. They're all stone-faced, in constant motion, herding and massing, sometimes like ants, sometimes like sheep, mostly like microscopic cells, instinctively filling voids of space, regardless of direction. They were shelling out paper and plastic like it was a religious ritual, a social custom, an unwritten rule. Something you just do, because when you were a kid, someone once told you to just do it, and you haven't ever questioned why. Just do it. If you haven't figured it out yet, when Nike says just do it, what they're really saying and what you're really hearing isn't just do it, it's just buy it. And man, did you buy it. You bought it all. If you're not busy making money, you're busy spending it. And every time that dollar makes the rounds, a little bit stays in somebody's pocket, and it sure as hell ain't yours. You go to the library and find a good book? Nobody makes any money. You lay in a hammock and shoot the shit with your neighbor? Nobody makes any money. You pull out your old guitar and play Yankee Doodle while your kids dance on the kitchen floor. You think anybody makes any money? No. Things that might enrich you, refresh you, bring you closer to people, they don't have any value in the free market, so the sellers have to make you believe they don't have any value, period. So you're dumb and getting dumber. You are isolated from your families, neighbors, and communities. Y'all are politically and economically oppressed and haven't got the slightest notion because you got all this stuff. And you never stop moving. Your mind and body are a temple, but the money changers are in control of the temple, my friend. You value others and yourself based on what we do and what we have rather than what we are. Because what we are don't pay for a small popcorn, let alone the price of a movie ticket. Mega malls, multiplexes, fast food joints, jeans, jewelry, junk, chains, shackles. This is Mr. Sunshine. You're listening to the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art. I'm Peter Donalds, and it's time now for a regular feature on the show. It's the Conversation Collage. This time we speak with artist, writer, performer, singer Donnie Tamblyn. Donnie is a native of Canada and currently lives in San Francisco. We spoke with her recently about her thoughts on the overall scene in the arts and performance, and especially, I think, of note, her own personal experiences and comparisons between Canada and the United States.
You know, when I started writing stuff and performing stuff, I started in gay clubs. Gay clubs.
Gay clubs.
And I was always always pretty,
Are you gay?
golly.
Give me
we could-
Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Come on, you're
But
gay.
don't,
Come on,
okay?
I know you're gay. I read
You
gay. I know
could,
you're gay.
but why? You know what I'm saying here? Yeah, I was going to say, I started out sort of an anarchist anyway. But, strangely enough, Canadians are more anarchistic, than Americans are. It's real weird. It's real weird. Americans are very, independence-oriented. Don't take my personal liberties away. Where Canadians will say, you want me to wear a motorcycle helmet? Bummer. Okay. Right? But they don't sit there and go, but that's my right, like Americans will. On the other hand, they'll do comedy where, Americans put the presidency in this, it's very revered. There are certain things about the president, embarrassing things that the
In
president
America,
does.
the presidency is revered?
Yes.
Bottom line, you still think that?
I know it. I came over from Canada, and the news took a dramatic slant to the right. Stories that happened about Reagan when I came down here in the Canadian press would never have gotten out in the American press. He never looked like a bumbling idiot. He never looked like a liar. He never looked like a criminal. Not really. You should only see the difference between the reporting. And they would do that with their own prime minister. He just, he didn't have the kind of protection.
Our systems are basically the same. Isn't it? Why do you think the difference is in the media and the arts that there's more freedom? And in humor and comedy?
I'll tell you why. Because I don't just think, I know why this is. Aren't you lucky that I'm here? Yes. Because the difference between the United States and any other country in the world was expressed by, I think, Calvin Coolidge, who said the business of America is
business.
Okay? No other country in the world thinks that the concerns of corporations supersede the concerns of people to have good health care, good education, good child care, things like that. In Canada, and say in British Columbia, they took car insurance out of the hands of private industry and they made it a utility. They said, hey, everybody has to have it. We're enforcing that. So it must be accessible, and it must be accessible to all.
All right, now given that, what's
And
the
not
bridge?
make a profit off them. So the bridge, okay, so being radical.
I think I hear what's coming. I think we all
Yeah,
hear
I
what's
think you
coming.
may
but
hear what's
I need
coming.
to hear it articulated.
Being radical is questioning the status quo. Okay, being radical or being an anarchist equals questioning the status quo. Am I right? Okay. It doesn't work for corporations to have people question the status quo.
Can artists exist outside the corporate world?
One thing that's helped Canadian artists, although they're the first ones to lament this, it's not as easy to make a lot of money with the arts, with comedy, with anything. You've got one TV network, CBC. Okay, that's it. It's government owned. The profit orientation is not that strong, okay? They have a public interest, necessity, and convenience issues going on much more strongly with CBC. I mean, you get people from ABC or NBC that come up there for any reason and talk about it. They say, God, at ABC, you got 14 producers and 3 secretaries, At CBC, you got 14 secretaries and 3 producers. It's like any bureaucracy. It's treated like a bureaucracy, not like a vital, how do we make money off this sort of entity. And so I said, if you want to make it a television in Canada, be a secretary, right? It's not a, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so where does the comedy writer, the performer go?
I'll tell you, you don't have that sort of edge, and there aren't many places to go. There are like 3 magazines if you want to write, for example. And so you don't have the possibility of making a tremendous amount of money at what you're doing. There's just not a big audience for you.
But in the end, the people who are doing it tend to be more wild, more creative, you think?
Yeah, because when you don't have, the possibility of being a huge financial success, I could be the next Roseanne, right? That possibility can cut my throat creatively. Because we've all seen it. The producers going, love it, love the concept, darling, love it. Take out the lesbian. Okay, and now what we want is a love interest. That's and you got this one. You saw the player, right? You saw the player, right? They have this concept, no stars, and at the end of the movie, it ends up with Julia Roberts.
Sure, that's Hollywood, but it's not just Hollywood. It's not just movies. It's television. It's radio. It's magazines.
Yeah, and because they've got this very, very, very money-making perspective.
Is there an independent scene in Canada that you came across, underground sort of radio programs like this, or home-published magazines, that kind of thing?
Not so much. Okay, you did have public access TV, and of course, it's being more of a socialistic country. It was much better funded. I mean, than this public access down here. Okay, that's what I was saying about grants too, right? Grants tend to be a hell of a lot bigger up there than they are down here for the arts, right? So they don't have that profit motive, but they do have this a little more support from the public sector, considerably more support. So there's that, see, and then they don't have the constrictions on them when they're getting the support to do their stuff for the public sector.
Right. Well, they don't. Okay, so there's no Jesse Helms in Canada.
See, that's another thing about Canada, that this is, you can't understate the Puritan effect, the Puritan tradition that Americans come from. I mean, you can feel everything just take a switch to the right as you come over the border. It's so different. I mean, in Canadian television, even the CBC, total broadcasting standards say anything is okay to show on television except actual sex taking place. Full frontal nudity is fine. I was watching the late movie one night, and it was carnal knowledge, uncut. No blips with the words, nothing, right? And we had that freedom with public access. The weird thing is that, people were suddenly going, hey, get a load of this, It's really strange.
I mean, I think it's kind of a rule of thumb. When the door's open,
people chill out.
It makes it easier to stay home.
Yeah.
You don't have to burst down that door if it's open for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know it's there when you need it, when you
Yeah.
want it. Did you go out that door, or did you stay at home? Did you get wild?
Oh, did I go out that door and go wild in public, like showing full frontal? No, I never, as I said, I never had the occasion to show,
We can do full frontal right here. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm now taking off my jacket,
There's the jacket.
and then taking off my shirt.
There it is, folks. Full frontal.
Yeah.
Full frontal on radio.
Yeah.
See, we're gonna have to bleep that though. Absolutely bleep that.
You could have said that. This was Canada.
Really?
Yes.
Well, you know what? We can say fuck on public radio if it's up to the individual station, and they'd probably have to do it late at night, and they'd have to write a 30-page thesis on why it was important to the creative, integrity of the work.
Writer and performer Donnie Tamblyn in the Conversation Collage. This time, we'll have another segment coming up before the show is out. You're listening to the Neo Radio Hour. Independent audio art. Was there time enough for me in your life? In your life, was there time enough to take the time we needed? Oh, I can be the man you needed all along. These words don't mean anything at all. We only want to hear the
Oh, you want to be a tough guy, huh? Charlie's hands were stained with purple dye, picked up while handling stolen goods. He sat in the 2-A tappy sipping a B&B, putting together a Saturday night special from a paper bag full of parts. The Pope was on TV, waving from the Pope-mobile, and the sight of the Holy Father made Charlie wince, remembering the lash of the nun and the skull that dangled from her rosary. His eye twitched, shoulder lifted, shifting him on his stool. He let out a little moan of a cough when he finished assembling the pistol. He weighed it in his beefy one-sided scale of justice. Guilty. Gave the barrel a twirl and laid it on the bar. It was early in the afternoon, and Charlie and Murph, the bartender, were the only people in the place. You got a rag, Murph? 38, you never saw it, agreed Murph, as he went back to shuffling bottles at the opposite end of the bar. See you later, Murph, were probably the last words Charlie spoke. They found his body rotting by the Lee Street Railroad tracks. A couple of rookie dukes stumbled over him while looking for a place to sleep. Everybody figured that the cops found him wounded and left him unreported. There were guys lined up to take his place. Charles Francis Devlin was the undisputed toughest guy in the neighborhood, a peerless dukesman and pistolier. He was a member of the Roofers Union's elite goon corps, an organization that would hire out to other unions to do their muscle work. Though a card-carrying member, he never chanced a tar burn. Charlie only went up on the roof to shoot the shit and get a healthy freckling, or collect some late dues. The first time I saw Charlie was the day he came to Huntington Street to fight my next-door neighbor, Walt Schneider, a badass at note himself. Devlin pulled up in a top-down convertible with a couple of babes in a second. His rear bumper was hanging off. Probably didn't slow down for the railroad tracks. And the metal scraping on the street trumpeted his arrival. Walt came down the steps with a baseball bat, screaming all sorts of punk-fight shit-ass language, upsetting the usually calm atmosphere of the grandpappies smoking their cigars and listening to the fills on a Saturday afternoon. Charlie Hollywood hopped out of the converti, ripped off the bumper, and smashed Walt in the face with it. Kicked him once while he was down, did a reverse Hollywood, and burned rubber to Fifth Street. with the smoke from his tires hanging heavy and pungent. We spectators looked at each other, mouths agape. It was a quick bout, and Walt was a sight laid out in the tar, all bloody. A chrome bumper laying beside him, sinking in the asphalt. Old man Schneider later appeared on the scene to kick Walt's ass back into the house for being whipped. Now, I had recently retired as the pickup kid for the local numbers guy, my father, and was exploring other career opportunities in the neighborhood. I was quite impressed with what Charlie and Walt created. Hey, the Devlin Schneider fight became a stock tale for the street bards, equal in popularity with the annual father and son fight in Port Richmond. They dead stopped time on Huntington Street. Though their exhibition scared the hell out of me. Yo, Walt, look out for that blam! I thought I might like to be a tough guy myself. So, making snarly, tough faces in the mirror, taking a couple slugs at the old man's punching bag in the cellar, and pushing around some smaller kids, I was on my way to becoming a real jive-ass punk, when good fortune had me meet up with Walt at the busy intersection of 5th and Lehigh. It was a couple of weeks after the Devlin fight, and Walt's face still looked like a junior high pizza. The idea of being a tough guy faded in my mind that day. But not before I took Walt up on the offer to show me how to walk across a busy intersection, badass style. "Just stay next to me," he snarled. His jaw was still wired. As he stepped out against the red light into Lehigh Avenue's raging mass of transit, I was intimidated into following by his constant turning back and prodding. "Come on, buddy, don't be a punk." At one point, I broke into a run, but Walt scruffed me and screamed in my face, setting the rubber bands on his teeth to vibration, saliva dripping from his numbed and scabbed lower lip. "Don't go faggot on me, buddy." Walt slowly and arrogantly sashayed across the street, dragging me with him, stopping occasionally to glare at drivers and give me a shake. If this was what it took to be a tough guy, I was perfectly comfortable being a chump. We damn near got clipped by some guy in a Merc, when an impatient Puerto Rican guy had the nerve to leave his vehicle to give snarling Schneider a Vieta a la Mierde Pendeo. I was able to escape. With Walt preoccupied fitting the guy's nose into the trolley track, I hightailed it to the sidewalk and continued up 5th Street. The experience, it proved to be a cure for my tough guy aspirations.
It's the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art. It's the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art. Everything you've heard on the show thus far, and everything you will hear, is provided to us by contributions from listeners such as yourself. I'm not talking about monetary contributions, although those would be great too. I'm talking about the material itself. If you're an artist, a writer, a singer, a musician, poet, whatever it is you've got to share with us that you think would sound good on the radio, that's what this is all about. All right, let's rejoin our conversation now with this week's guest in the Conversation Collage, artist, writer, performer, Donnie Tamlin.
We were talking earlier about being heavy-handed in your work.
Yeah.
You don't shy away from that?
I think, no, I try not to now. I mean, I think heavy-handed is great if it has some other merit there, okay? Hey, to me, heavy-handed must go along with if you really... Okay. It's got something to do with preaching to the already converted, you know what I'm saying? You can do heavy-handedness in a way that... Okay, the thing is, if you're too heavy-handed, you lose the unconverted. That's important to me. So you've got to make it heavy-handed plus riveting for them for some reason. The entertainment I enjoy myself, like I enjoy viewing, or what do we say? Consuming. The entertainment that I enjoy consuming is it's meaningful entertainment. And you know, I've never very often enjoyed just going out to be for about 2 hours and forget my life for a while. You know what I mean? Just let me forget everything. I don't really want to forget everything. Everybody says, well, that's what entertainment is for. Let people... In a sense, on one level, yes, I think that's certainly true. But on another level, I mean, I just don't... For me, I don't want to forget everything. It's a little weird. I mean, that's what drugs are for, okay? So, not entertainment. So to me, it's never been do my entertainment for that reason. Now and then there's a little thing that's very counterculture, very... makes you just think.
Yeah, it leaves you with something.
Yeah.
The next morning, you don't feel cheap.
Yeah, right. Most stuff I see out there is entertaining, but it's not meaningful. Okay.
And a lot of
And
entertainment,
some
like Steven
stuff.
Spielberg, it can push your buttons, it can entertain you, it
Yeah.
can keep you occupied, and you can have a great time,
Yeah.
and then 5 minutes later, it's all gone.
What did I spend my time
You're
doing?
left with nothing.
Exactly. It's like driving 10 miles down the freeway and suddenly remember you don't know anything.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but why would you waste your time in a place like that when it's not that difficult to
Yeah.
be entertained
Big old world out there.
and be left with something as
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
There's
It's a
plenty of it out
big world out there. There are fascinating things going on out there. Okay. I mean, even if I didn't come up with them as an artist, I mean, what's happening? Okay, you know, the fact that you see everything upside down and they do experiment. You know, your eyes are lenses and lenses turn everything upside down, so you see everything upside down, but the fact is your mind turns everything right side up so you can, like, live. And they do experiments where people put lenses, they strap them on their heads and turn everything upside down and check to see how long it takes their minds to flip everything right side up again. And it does.
No.
Yes, it does. They take the lenses off after. No, it's not. It's hey, you're made to do this. This is what your body does. Isn't that fascinating? There is a group of men, a men's association that have been circumcised. They want to grow the foreskin back, and they know how to do it.
Really?
Absolutely. They just like sort of pull it back up and put a clothespin or something. I'm sure it doesn't hurt, but do something that they said. You know how fat people, as you get fatter and fatter, your skin grows to accommodate it. They said that's what skin does. It grows. You can grow it back again. Now, isn't it an interesting world?
It is an interesting world. And all of this is material. And none of it is...
Hell yeah.
And we're stuck on guns and bikinis.
Yeah.
For our two main sources of material for entertainment and comedy.
You know what I was going to say? It was entertaining and meaningful. There are some people that try to do meaningful stuff, but it's not very entertaining. Okay, and so to me, I just think it's wonderful if it can be entertaining and meaningful both. It's the only kind of work that is worth doing as far as I'm concerned. And so, therefore, if I'm doing something I'm so opinionated, yeah, right, but if I can't entertain somebody while I'm doing it, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to impose on them. I don't want to waste their time.
Well, I mean, there are people like, there are politicians and activists who aren't front and not wasting anybody's time. It's a different thing.
They aren't, very often, all I can say is they're not accomplishing anything but preaching to the already converted, okay? Because the other people don't have any motivation to listen to.
Well, this is interesting. What you're saying, if maybe you don't realize that, well, maybe you do. What you're saying then is that art and culture, as opposed to politics and activism, are really different.
I am saying I'm really interested in interacting because, again, I think if other people don't just watch me do my stuff, but get involved and do their stuff with me while I do my stuff, and we do our stuff together, it's a more meaningful experience. You know, if you say that art and culture are a way of how did you say it? You said it so beautifully.
I don't recall now.
So people, if you want to be a moving force in politics, okay, what you're trying to do is have your message received. And once they've received it, hey, accepted or rejected, fine, but receive it at least, you know. I mean, in space, no one can hear you scream, you know, only they live in that black void where nobody hears what I'm saying, right? So, hear what I'm saying and then decide what you think. Okay, one of the best ways to get people to hear is if they get to interact with the information rather than just sit and listen to it. And that being, you know, the Chinese proverb, tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I might remember, involve me and I will understand. So, you know, in the last few years, my performance work, such as it's been, has been almost always interactive, where I play with the audience and get them, you know, make them play and let them be funny and make them look good doing it and get them, and it's a totally other level that you're operating on. I figured out what really early on that improv or extemporaneous stuff between you and the audience is they love it so much more than even your best written material, stuff you've labored over. A little thing off the top of your head, somebody in the audience says something out loud and you say something back, and they kill themselves laughing. The being present in the moment rather than everything prepared beforehand. I mean, you know, it's just so exciting. It's got an energy to it. And it's much more valid, I think. I mean, scripted stuff is great. You know. So.
Well, I mean, even this form, I mean, the conversation.
Oh yeah.
It's so listenable. I have a real affinity to it.
Me too. I mean, I love talk radio when it comes right down to it, but the stuff it's weird. Actually, see, it's talk for the purpose of for commercial purposes. It is, and that's they cut people off. They give them their 12-second bites, you know, so they can just say something. The more outrageous, the thing they say, or controversial. They're 12 seconds, but they don't get to follow it up. There's no follow-up questions. Just say something that adds to the general pandemonium so that the emotions can stay high, but nothing gets said. There's a lot of heat but no light sort of thing.
Sure, and there's a producer screening the calls, and there's the dynamics of the show is really being scripted by the producer, who has a choice of 15 different callers.
Yeah.
To say, well, we need something like this right now. Caller 7 has that.
Hey, yeah, and if caller 8 had something that actually would lend some clarity,
Sure.
but caller 7 had something that would get people all bent out of shape, guess who's going to get on? That's the point, you know. And why? Who cares after a little while? You know, in TV, now we're talking TV talk shows, the producers, there's a term they use, squirts.
What does that mean?
It means it refers to somebody on the set crying, starting to cry. And that's when, you know, the director's in the control booth going, okay, camera one, zoom in, you know, because squirts are good television.
Writer and performer Donnie Tamblyn, this week's guest in the Conversation Collage. I'm Peter Donalds, and you're listening to the Neo Radio Hour, independent audio art.
Is 10:30, and In Praise of God today comes from Manchester in the north of England. One evening each month, the city centre Roman Catholic Church of St Augustine is packed for a service of praise and healing. Members of that congregation, who gather from different churches all around Manchester, lead us in worship and meditation in this programme, beginning with the song, Holy Spirit, We Welcome You.
Everybody thinking I was only 15.
Another fight going on way up now, I'd say about 25,000, even 30,000 feet above our heads, and we can't see a thing of it. The anti-aircraft guns just put up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bursts, but I can see the aeroplane. There we go again. What? Oh, yes, we can see the victim. Oh, that was beautiful. He's coming right down now. I think definitely that's the first rocket. There are about 4 fighters up there, and I don't know what they're doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fighters fighting right over our head now. There's one coming right down on the tail of what I think is the national Spitfire behind them. Oh, down, they turned away. I can't see. Hardly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now there's something coming right down on the tail of another. Here they go. They're being chased home, and how they're being chased home. There are 3 Spitfires chasing 3 men
The Neo Radio Hour is written and produced by Peter Donalds and Frank Skillman. Contributing artists tonight, Asbestos Removal Crew, The Rubbles, Brother Russell, Len Holtz, Marcella Blakely, and Sound Theater. Special thanks to our guest artist tonight in the Conversation Collage, artist, writer, performer, Donnie Tamblin. If you'd like to be involved in the show, we hope that you will. As we stated earlier, it's all about you. Send us your work, your ideas. If you're a writer, artist, performer, musician, sound artist, it's the Neo Radio Hour. Thanks for listening. I hope you taped it. I'm Peter Donalds.